It's now my absolute pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Lieutenant Ron Reid, Royal Australian Navy Reserve. Ron. You're okay, mate? Or do you want me to stand behind you?
I'm good.
You okay with my point?
Yeah, a little higher. A little higher.
A little higher. You're okay with that?
Yep. Well, thank you, Graham. Distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen. But more importantly, all of you, and I see many, who saw active service during the Vietnam War. This is your day. Like Anzac Day and Remembrance Day, we come together on the 18th of August every year to honour and remember the service and the sacrifice of both our men and our women who saw service in Vietnam. This day also serves as a reminder of the need to continue to support our veterans and their families, particularly those who still carry the physical and mental scars as a result of their service. It was back in December 1964 when the Commonwealth Government agreed to commit ground forces to Vietnam. However, our initial involvement began much earlier when the Australian Army training team arrived in South Vietnam in July and August of 1962. And it wasn't only our Army who served. Our Navy played key roles, including shore bombardment north of the demilitarised zone and the equivalent of the US Navy SEALs, which we call clearance diving teams, often served behind enemy lines for the duration of the war. Our Air Force flew combat and air support missions, rescued and carried wounded, supplied Allied armies, as well as performing a myriad of other tasks. Their exceptional performance resulted in the awarding of 6 Distinguished Flying Cross, 2 Distinguished Service Medals and 15 mentioned in dispatches. Australian soldiers fought in the jungles, the scrub, the towns and the villages. And our clearance diving teams conducted mine clearance operations and provided training and assistance to the Republic of South Vietnam's Army. The Battle of Long Tan was a significant moment in Australia's war in Vietnam. It is described on the back page of your program, but safe to say it was one of the fiercest firefights in which our soldiers participated during this war. We are remembering this battle, which occurred 59 years ago today, and the fact it resulted in the highest casualty rate of any single operation up to this point in time in the war. But Long Tan was not the only major engagement our soldiers participated. Besides Long Tan, we were involved in several other significant battles and engagements, including the Battle of Binh Ba, Operation Bribble, and the Battle of Coral Balmoral. At the height of the war, Australia's army presence totalled 8,500 soldiers, and for a small country in terms of our population 60 years ago, this indeed was significant. 4 Victoria Crosses were awarded to Australian soldiers for their selflessness, their bravery and their courage. And of course there were many other awards. It may also come to surprise some of you that over 13,500 Royal Australian Navy personnel participated in active service during the Vietnam War. Small in comparison when compared to the United States Navy perhaps, but nonetheless our Navy's participation was significant. 18 of our ships participated, and of course we would, or most of us would all know, HMAS Sydney, our converted aircraft carrier, which made 23 return passages to Vietnam and would later affectionately become known as the Vung Tau Ferry, carrying some 16,000 Australian soldiers during the course of the war. Some of you here today, like me, would have either been carried to Vietnam or returned from Vietnam in HMAS Sydney. We rotated 4 ships on what was described as the gun line, each ship participating in a 6-month deployment, and much of their time was spent north of the DMZ, providing naval gunfire support. In total, some 103,000 5-inch rounds were fired. 11 other Navy ships participated in escort duties, sailing in company with HMAS Sydney, making sure no harm would come to her or her cargo of both soldiers and equipment. But it was not only our Navy ships. The Fleet Air Arm, known as the Royal Australian Navy Helicopter Flight Vietnam, flew Huey helicopter gunships and medevac helicopters. Royal Australian Navy doctors served with the 1st American Field Hospital and in other US Army and Navy hospitals in Saigon. 353 women served in Vietnam as nurses, 43 of them in uniform with the Australian Army Nursing Service. More than 200 civilian nurses were part of the SEATO surgical team, and 22 women worked with the Red Cross and other medical staff serving in the American hospital in Saigon. By United States standards, we were a small coalition, but a very effective one, more than shouldering our load and punching way beyond our weight. Testimony to this is by way of the number of decorations bestowed on Australians by both the United States government and the government of the Republic of South Vietnam. By the time the war had ended, almost 60,000 Australians served during this period of conflict between 1962 and 1973. Almost 3,000 Australians were wounded and 524 died during their service in Vietnam. Not dissimilar to any other previous wars and previous wars that we have been involved, lives are lost and lives are shattered. Vietnam was no different. So in closing, let me say this: we should honour all those who served during this conflict, but not only on this day, every day, by never forgetting the cost of war and who pays the price. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Ron.